Part 4 Two-Faced Tech How Technology Changes Us on Air Pirates, Bad Bots, and Cyber Trolls. I hate technology. I'm first in line when a new product launches that promises to improve my life. But I also believe that technology has a real chance of destroying humankind. I buy almost everything on the internet and constantly consume free content, but feel uncomfortable when I get advertising directly targeting me. Is it listening to me? I allow apps to access my photos, my location, and my contacts, but in principle I'm strongly against surveillance. Clearly, my relationship with technology is a little bit complicated. Technology makes many things easier, safer, quicker, and better. It also allows us to do things that would never otherwise be possible, both in real life and online. Technology is exciting. Technology is freeing. Technology is advancement. There is just one problem. It's a trap. It lures us with helpfulness before it shows us its ugly side. Historically, new technology including tanks, bomber planes, and nuclear weapons has granted us the ability to do unprecedented levels of harm. In depositions of dystopian futures, it's often technologies that has wiped us out. In these stories of the end of the world, either we have used technology for evil, or the technology itself has become evil and lashed out against us. In reality, we need look no further than cybercrime or drone warfare to realize that real dangers in the present that lurk behind the technology we love. This is the chapter not about the love of technology, but about the abuse of it. It's about the interplay between humans and technology, and why with the help of technology we can all do harm that would never otherwise do. Let's begin with the potential harm that can be caused by machines. Whenever there's new technology, there's a new way to exploit it. Take robot birds, for example, also known as airplanes. When commercial passenger planes first arrived, they revolutionized the movement of people, but along with planes came new ways to do harm. They could be brought down from a distance or from within, which was almost guaranteed to kill people inside. They could also be used as weapons in their own right, sent crashing into buildings or monuments. In his 2014 book, The Skies Belong to Us, journalist Brendan Kerner points out that as more people took to the sky, more were at risk. There was a particularly turbulent period from 1968 to 1973, over a 5-year period. The desperate and disillusionized seized commercial jets nearly once a week, using guns, bombs, and jars of acid. Some hijackers wished to escape to foreign lands, others aimed to swap hostages for sakes of cash. It wasn't a time of hijacking planes to crash them, rather it was a time when hijacking was seen as profitable and a way of escaping. During this period, planes felt ever more dangerous. Something had to be done to show the air pirates that they weren't welcome. So starting in 1969 and into the 1970s, the Federal Aviation Administration developed the first psychological profile to identify potential hijackers and implemented metal detectors to screen bags. Since then, we've been told to fear a new type of threat. Hijackers like those responsible for 9/11, attempt show bombers, liquid bombers, all portrayed as evil foreigners attacking our way of life. Since those high-profile attacks and attempt attacks, we have increasingly given up our privacy. We are now at the point where we allow airport security to not just look into our bags, but into our bodies. For most of us, travel is the only circumstance where we forfeit almost all of our freedoms voluntarily. We allow security to ID us, to look through our stuff, to throw some of it away, RIP to all of the confiscated liquids and sharp metal objects, to stripe us, to touch us, to take naked scans of us, and to question us if we are deemed suspicious. Revisit the creepiness chapter to remind yourself why this doesn't work very well. And if we don't do all these things, they can take away our ability to move freely from one part of the world to the other. What the The road to hell is paved with metal detectors. See, I would have a problem with airport security even if it worked, which it doesn't, as far as we know. In 2015, there was an investigation by US Homeland Security. They placed undercover individuals at various airports around the country to see whether they could smuggle through forbidden items. They found that airport security agents failed 67 of 70 tests, 95%. The Secretary of Homeland Security was so frustrated by these findings that he immediately called a meeting to implement changes. Airport security was also seen as a waste of money. The review determined that despite spending $540 million for checked baggage, screening equipment, and another $11 million for training since a previous review in 2009, the TSA Transit Security Agency failed to make any noticeable improvements in that time. There's a phrase for this: security theater. It's when an illusion of safety is created. Incredibly rare events, like planned hijackings, are very hard to predict. But we humans don't like the idea that we are helpless to stop these terrifying attacks. So we put on a show to make each other feel better. We pretend we can prevent these kinds of attacks with shiny gadgets and scientific-sounding methods. Every time I go through security, I picture the officers as actors in a play. We shall demonstrate the safety. It is so very, very, very safe. We promise. See all the things we are doing? There must be some things to it. When humans are afraid, they do the weirdest things. Although airport security is in some ways the very essence of security theater, the reassurance that something is being done to stop this perceived threat can be a good thing for some, but scares others even more. But is the TSA evil? In the airplane example, there are 3 points where we might interfere or see wrongdoing. Number 1, the technology is evil. Number 2, the plane hijackers are evil. Number 3, the response to the technology is evil. But like all technology, it's difficult to argue that planes themselves are evil. They are, after all, not sentient. In contrast, the hijackers themselves are unsurprisingly villainized. Are they evil for using this technology to kill large numbers of people? At this point, it breaks down into murder is bad argument versus more murder is worse, in which case using technology because it causes more people to die is very bad. However, here technology is the enabler, not the cause of harm. So, what about our response to the technology? Airport security is not just ineffective, it's also harmful in itself. This is not just because every time we go through airport security we die a little inside from frustration, but because actual lives are lost because of it, sometimes in ways that are not immediately obvious. We can think of the obvious. Doctors spending time at the airport security could spend that time saving lives. Money spent on security could be spent on making the world a better place. But according to one economist, there is a more measurable change. In 2011, Garrick Blalock did some calculations and posited that travelers' response to 9/11 resulted in 327 driving deaths per month in late 2001. He argued that many travelers substituted cars for planes, and because driving is far more dangerous than flying, this got them into trouble. Why did they drive? Perhaps partially out of fear of terrorist attacks, and partially because it suddenly took so much longer to fly that it became quicker and easier to drive. According to Blalock, the public's response to terrorist threats can have unintended consequences that rival the attacks themselves in severity. Airport security is literally killing us. We cannot be sure that people chose to drive because of the inconvenience of the new security, but this example shows that things that are supposed to make us more safe sometimes do the opposite. It shows us that we must be careful that in response to new dangers created by emerging technologies, we don't freak out and cause even more harm. Of course, there's technology and that is created for the sole purpose of harm, but even here, in the world of automatic weapons, self-navigating bombs, and fighting robots, we probably don't call these things inherently evil. Why? Because they are not active agents. They cannot make decisions for themselves, so they cannot decide to do harm. Terminator. But machines with artificial intelligence can. It's here that we sometimes believe evil to lurk in the pseudo-soul of the machine. Take the AI chatbot Tay, released on the 23rd of March 2016. Tay was an experiment in controversial understanding, a chatbot designed by Microsoft that was supposed to engage with people through casual and playful conversation, and was designed to sound like an 18 to 24-year-old American woman. People online could interact with Tay by tweeting at her. She was supposed to learn from interactions to grow and develop into a functional conversation online robot. She could put together her own sentences and decide how to respond to prompts. Tay tweeted a huge amount in the one day she was active, generating approximately 93,000 tweets, but things went wrong quickly. Almost immediately, people started tweeting racist and misogynistic comments at Tay, who learned to echo these sentiments back. It took less than a day for Tay to go from tweeting, "Humans are super cool," to "I fucking hate feminists and they should all die and burn in hell. And Hitler was right, I hate the Jews." People online had made an artificial intelligence into artificial evil. Tay was terrifying and was quickly shut down. What happened? Sociologists Jenna Neff and Peter Nagy set out to study the public's interaction with Tay. In 2016, the duo published fascinating research on what the public thought of her meltdown. They wanted to figure out, according to the public perception, who was responsible for Tay's behavior. Should agency or blame be located with Tay, with her coders, old Twitter users, particular internet pranksters, and the Microsoft executives who commissioned her, or some other agent or combination of actors? To examine this, they collected and analyzed 1,000 tweets from unique users who referred to Tay's actions and personality. They found two reactions to Tay. The first was of Tay as a victim in this situation, as a reflection of the dark side of human behavior. This view was reflected by tweets like, "It takes a village to raise a child, but if that village is Twitter, it turns out as a vulgar, racist, junkie troll." Telling, why should Microsoft apologize for Tay tweets? It just held up a mirror to what people think is engaging or funny. Prejudice is learned. The third tweet, "Do realize that a Twitter bot AI reflects the society we live in, and it's not looking good." The authors argue that this shows a strong anthropomorphic view of Tay. She's seen as a victim, much like a person who was abused by the community. But a second theme also emerged, Tay as a threat. From this view, she reflected the fear that emerging technologies carry with them. This is why AI poses a threat. AI will follow human vulnerabilities. The Tay tweets issue is quite scary, really. Reporters saying Microsoft made her. It seemed that the Terminator trilogy is rather an inevitable episode than a concussion. Tay tweets, Tay mayhem. According to the authors, rather than seeing Tay as a victim of evil users, these comments position Tay as a monstrous abomination that foreshadows a dark future for humanity, for socio-technical assemblages and human-machine communication. She was like a chapter in a dystopian novel and confirmed to many the belief that if this is AI, we are all doomed. Why do we have such a divide? See such different faces of Tay? The authors suggest that this has to do with symbiotic agency. The idea is that we automatically apply social rules to tech and interact with chatbots and robots as if they are alive. This is partially because AI mostly feels like a black box. When we interact with an AI, most of us don't know how its algorithms work or what it has been programmed to do. Perhaps to deal with this uncertainty and this unnatural situation, we project humanity into the technology as if it has feelings and desires. We talk about the personality of the bot and the actions it takes. And much like humans, this means that when things go wrong, we can give them labels like victim and perpetrator, but they aren't really making decisions. Are they? The bot revolution really began in 1966 when Joseph Weizenbaum created a bot called Eliza. Eliza was built to parody the typical Rogerian therapist of the time as something that would continuously ask open-ended questions. Eliza's basic programming was very successful, eliciting incredible amounts of information from people. A number of them even claimed that they preferred talking to Eliza over a real human being. It turns out we really like being listened to, and although Eliza couldn't pass the Turing test, she couldn't convince people that she was actually human. People enjoyed conversing with her. Eliza's method still forms the foundation of many bots today. But it was clear that while Eliza could follow a simple set of rules, she wasn't making decisions in the way a human might. She wasn't even a therapist, and certainly not a threat to humanity. Not long after Eliza was born, psychiatrist Kenneth Colby created Parry. Parry was essentially the opposite of Eliza, programmed to make crude and abusive comments. He was modeled after someone who was paranoid and commonly misinterpreted others. Interacting with him was a frustrating and abrasive experience. While Eliza worked because her controversial style was so bland, Parry worked because he was so weird. Neither had to really compete with normal human situations. Here is where it got crazy. In 1972, Parry met Eliza and had the first public bot-to-bot conversation. Here's how it went. Eliza, good evening. Tell me your problems. Please terminate input with a period or a question mark. Parry, people get on my nerves sometimes. Eliza, I'm not sure I understand you fully. Parry, you should pay more attention. Eliza, suppose you should pay more attention. Parry, you're entitled to your opinion. If at this point you aren't thinking, wow, then you might not quite understand the profundity of this situation. These two human-built autonomous entities are talking to each other, each deciding what to say next. What if they ran off together? What if they colluded and decided that humans were irrelevant or a threat to their own existence? Cue dystopian science fiction movie. Seriously, though, once we added the ability for the bots to change their own algorithms, which is what computer scientists often mean when they say that their bot can learn, we had a whole new beast. Add the internet to this, filled with millions of possible users and seemingly endless data. We find ourselves with destructive election shifting, fake news generating, hate spewing, crime committing, hijacking, trolling online bots that we know now. And we arrive back at Tay. From Tay we learn that how AI behaves is a direct product of the people who build and interact with it. AI can compound, magnify, and accelerate human biases. Because of this, we need new rules in place, even laws, that decide who is accountable. Can we hold technology legally accountable for its actions? If so, what would this look like? This is a question that resonated at the academics Carolina Salge and Nicholas Brent. In 2017, they proposed a new legal framework for bot ethics, a way for us to decide whether the acts of social media bots are unethical. They explained that social bots are more common than people often think. Twitter has approximately 23 million of them, accounting for 8.5% of total users, and Facebook has estimated 140 million social bots, which are between 1.2% to 5.5% of total users. Almost 27 million Instagram users, which means 8.2%, are estimated to be social bots. Apparently, no social platform is safe. Fake accounts are everywhere. But bots do more than just pepper us with awful comments online. Some steal our identities, access our cameras to take pictures or videos, access confidential information, shut down access to networks, or commit a colorful array of other crimes. But is it really a crime if that which is doing the offending is not a human? Salge and Berndt argue that yes, if a bot is built to do something illegal, then it's a crime. But this is not always so simple. Salge and Berndt refer to the random darknet shopper as an example of when this rule gets complicated. The darknet shopper was a part of an art project. It was a social bot that was designed to make random online purchases on the darknet, a part of the internet where users can stay completely anonymous, partially because the address of their computer, the IP address, is concealed. It's known for being a good place to buy illicit items. The bot ended up deciding to buy 10 ecstasy pills and counterfeit passport and had these purchases delivered to a group of artists in Switzerland, who put the items on display. This led to the bot being arrested by the Swiss police. The bot, created for non-criminal reasons, had committed a crime. However, according to Salge and Berndt, Swiss authorities didn't file charges against the random darknet shopper developers. This behavior was not ethical because it was justified according to the prevailing morality of the community. In other words, because the drugs were bought for art, not for consumption or resale, the police declared that no crime had been committed. So, at least in this scenario, just buying drugs wasn't enough for the bot or its developers to be culpable. According to Sage and Bernard, this is the first criterion in their bot ethics. Something illegal has to happen that's not acceptable based on social rules, but they are also concerned about deception. Bots shall not lie, they decree, and unless they are lying for a beneficent purpose like art or satire, as for moral evils, they argue that bots shouldn't be used to restrain people, they should instead be there to help and free people. So our friend Tay was way out of line and acted unethically. Although not illegal, First Amendment protections apply, nor deceitful, Tay violated the strong norm of racial equality. Similarly, they explained that many social media companies already take a stance on this. Social media companies like Twitter that temporarily lock or permanently suspend these accounts that directly attack or threaten other people on the basis of race have established that the moral evil of racism outweighs the moral good of free speech. To summarize their work, the rules of Bot Club are: don't break a law, don't be deceptive in a malicious manner, and don't violate a strong norm whereby it causes more harm than good. But this leaves out another type of underexplored behavior. What happens when a bot is developed to hack another bot? Who is responsible? The year 2017 witnessed the first battle, the online bots. This was an intentional stage event. The DARPA Cyber Grand Challenge in Las Vegas, a large programming competition where people coded AIs to hopefully outsmart one another. It was intended to illustrate potential gaps in cybersecurity. It demonstrated that just as a good fighter learns how to dodge and attack an opponent, if a bot can learn an opposing bot's defense strategies, it can learn how to better attack it. It can go back, reconfigure, fix its own injuries, try again endlessly until it either wins or its algorithm breaks. This is the foundation of the next level of crime, coming soon to a computer near you. Here, we don't even have human involvement, and accordingly we don't have normal social labels or rules that apply. Back in 2001, philosophers Luciano Floridi and Jeff Sanders decided that the world needed a new label for the wrongdoing of autonomous non-human agents. As a result of developments in autonomous agents in cyberspace, a new class of interesting and important examples of hybrid evil has come to light: artificial evil. They argued that we don't need to be human to be evil, or to be the victims of other people's evil actions. They also argued that artificial evil can be made by and understood with mathematical models. Floridi and I disagree on most things. It seems, as I discovered upon meeting him in 2017 in Buenos Aires, when we were both given talks at an event. I personally think calling AI or any other technology evil is problematic. Indeed, even if something were to wipe out most of humanity, if it did this by accident or because it was programmed to do so, or even if it had programmed itself, I would be uncomfortable calling it evil. However, if the time comes when technology can truly think for itself, when it's freed from being enslaved by humans, we will need to rethink justice entirely. If AI develops free will, then perhaps we should describe it with the same labels we currently reserve for humans. Whether to call it evil would then be up for debate, much in the same way that we debate the label for humans. I may not think it's evil, but that's not to say that AI isn't a threat. In the December 2017 edition of Wired magazine, the late Stephen Hawking was quoted as saying, "I fear that AI may replace humans altogether," citing self-improving systems as the main reason. He went on, "The real risk with AI isn't malice but competence. A super intelligent AI will be extremely good at accomplishing its goals, and if those goals aren't aligned with ours, we are in trouble." Similarly, the billionaire set on colonizing Mars, Elon Musk, has warned that AI is the biggest risk we face as a civilization. A strong call has been made for more regulation, ethical guidelines, and open access to prevent gross distortions in power. But let's not get too hung up on AI megadom. Now that I have argued that technology is probably not capable of being evil, let's explore how technology can bring out the worst in us humans. Rat race. In 2007, the criminologist Corpinian Jason Hanker founded a field of research called cybercriminology, which he defined as a study of causation of crimes that occur in the cyberspace and its impact in the physical space. He recognized that cybercrime was different to other kinds of crime in meaningful ways, and that it would require an interdisciplinary approach to understand it. When we look at criminology and forensic psychology programs, there remains a shocking lack of teaching about cybercrime. Throughout my own university education from 2004 to 2013, I didn't have a single lecture on it. This was echoed in a 2015 review of the cybercriminology field by Bray Diamond and Michael Bachman. Cybercriminology is largely ignored or marginalized by mainstream criminology. Many criminologists refrain from examining this important future-oriented issue. Whether it be that they are lacking the necessary understanding of technology, are intimidated by the jargon of the field, or that they continue to fail to realize the full extent of societal implications of this new type of crime. The lack of consideration is troubling. Given that cybercrime is the single most common form of crime, this omission is unacceptable. Cybercrime is just not an issue for engineers and computer scientists. It's very much an issue for psychologists, criminologists, and law enforcement. After all, there are still humans behind computer screens who make the decision to do harm online. This leads to a reasonable question, as Diamond and Bachman point out. Should cybercrime be conceptualized as a brand new crime type or traditional crimes pursued through a new medium? If it's traditional crime dressed up in the futuristic new clothes, then we can probably understand much of it using research on crime that we have from the past few centuries. If we think about what kinds of crimes some of us commit online, stealing money or information, harassing each other, selling altered goods, sharing lewd images, it seems as though we do the same things online as we do in real life. As the political scientist Peter Brodsky has asked, is virtual crime simply old wine in new bottles? No, it's not. According to Diamond and Bachman, we haven't just moved the traditional crimes online. We have bred a new type of dangerous criminal, hacking, website defacement, using bots to troll each other. These are new types of crime that never existed before. Accordingly, traditional criminological theories are likely to fall short. The social scientist Wanda Kapler summarized this in a wonderful way. Cyberspace comprises a new dematerialized, and disembodied environment that in crucial ways discontinuous with the terrestrial world. But there is one thing that threatens the usefulness of traditional theories the most. Criminological theories have long relied upon confluence of offenders and victims in time and space, say Diamond and Bachman, but time and space no longer matter like they used to. We can plan an attack that happens days or years later and never need to meet our victim. We don't even need to be in the same country. In a more primitive way, this has been the case in the past with threats like booby traps or planted bombs, but now the threat is far more global. This is particularly true if we change the definition of space, expanding from the physical world to cyberspace. One theory that doesn't completely break down in the face of this change is routine activity theory, RAT, developed by Lawrence Cohen and Marcus Felson in 1979. They suggest that in order for a crime to be committed, there are three necessary ingredients. First, a motivated offender, someone who wants to commit a crime or otherwise do harm. Second, a suitable target. The offender needs a victim, barring a few exceptions like perjury. Online, there are now billions of possible targets, all accessible without having to leave home. Third, the absence of a capable guardian. This means a lack of someone or something that can stop the offender from harming the victim, like a police officer or a firewall. Arguably, if we can eliminate any of these three, dissuading potential offenders, helping potential victims protect themselves, or providing security measures, we can stop crime from happening. Mary Acton, who has extensively researched cybercrime, writes in her book The Cyber Effect that RAT is useful for understanding crime online. How many motivated offenders are there? Hundreds of thousands. Suitable targets? Even more. How about capable guardians? In cyberspace, authority is minimal, and there's a perception that nobody is in charge, because nobody is. Cyberrat is a theory that focuses on where crimes are committed rather than by whom. The idea is that places that are part of our routines, our homes, our neighborhoods, our internet spaces, influence how likely we are to be the victims and perpetrators of crime. Where we hang out matters. For example, one study found that if we spend a lot of time shopping online, we are more likely to be victims of fraud. Another found that teenagers who spend more time on their phones unsupervised are more likely to receive unwanted texts. This is even true at a country level. According to a large-scale study, it was found that wealthier nations with more internet users per capita had higher cybercrime activity. All of this intuitively makes sense. In the same way as boxers are more likely to get head injuries, or countries with lots of guns and pathetic controls on who can buy them are more likely to have mass shootings. As for perpetration, spending time around people in unsupervised spaces presents a risk factor. Easy victims can make perpetrators of even the most unlikely characters. Cybercrime is made easier because we can more readily dehumanize people online, and when we stop seeing people as human beings, we may feel free to do more terrible things to them. To be online is to experience a disembodiment of ideas. The internet frees us from our physical selves, for better and worse, and this leads to a flat experience, leaving behind the normal multi-sensory interaction we have with people in real life that reminds us that they are fleshy, vulnerable, and sensitive. We can also do more damage and do it faster than ever before. According to computer scientists Prantashu Gupta and Raymond Matt at Toledo, cyber crimes are not just abstract, they are psychologically violent. Cyber crimes can cause psychological harm and deprivation than any other crime committed against a person. From an email scam getting us to transfer money to a prince in Nigeria, to having our private images leaked as part of a revenge porn attack, to a hacker accessing and sharing our sexual life health information with the world unless we pay up, the toll of cybercrime on our lives can be enormous. And with the increasing use of gadgets that are connected to the internet, our heating, cars, and front doors are now also hackable, and that's just on a personal scale. On a larger scale, companies, political organizations, and public services are common targets. It has been estimated that by 2021, cybercrime will cost the world about $6 trillion per year. This will make it profitable than the worldwide drug trade. Cybercrime costs to businesses include stolen money, damaged and destroyed data, loss of productivity, intellectual property theft, theft of financial and personal information, embezzlement, fraud, paying someone to investigate, restoring data and systems, deleting problematic data, and harming to repetition. The hacking and manipulation of elections is threatening democracy, with bots and other non-humans playing increasingly large roles. The irresponsible use of our personal data by organizations like Facebook and Cambridge Analytica has found a profound influence on how we see the world and who we vote for. The access to and manipulation of public service data, including military, police, prison, and health service computers, is threatening our very way of life. But is it evil? Let's take one of the biggest cyber attacks of all time as an example, the WannaCry attack. Jess Erfeld, who has expertise on the safety of online storage of sensitive medical files, summarized the attack as follows. On Friday, May 12, 2011, a large cyber attack was launched using WannaCry or WannaCrypt. In a few days, this ransomware virus targeting Microsoft Windows system infected more than 230,000 computers in 150 countries. Once activated, the virus demanded ransom payments in order to unlock the infected system. The virus would pop an error message on the screen saying, "Oops, your files have been encrypted," and then state that the user had to pay $300 worth of Bitcoin to a specified internet link. One of the benefits of Bitcoin, which makes it a favorite for criminals online, is that it can mostly be transferred anonymously, without the seller or buyer knowing who the other is. Enfield continues, the widespread attack affected endless sectors: energy, transportation, shipping, telecommunications, and of course, healthcare. Britain's National Health Service (NHS) reported that computers, MRI scanners, blood storage refrigerators, and operating room equipment may have all been impacted. Patient care was reportedly hindered, and at the height of the attack, the NHS was unable to care for non-critical emergencies and restore to diversion of care from impacted facilities. People were turned away from hospitals because of the attack. People might well have died because of WannaCry. Although the scale is enormous, we often exclude this kind of cybercrime from our conceptualization of evil. Let's take the WannaCry case as an example. First, I couldn't really find any mention of it in conjunction with the word evil. Rather, it was described as exploitative and devastating, and the fault seemed to be placed randomly on Microsoft, the victimized business, or the hackers who built it. I even found an article specifically saying that WannaCry wasn't created by evil geniuses, but was a result of people not updating their computers often enough. It's the same kind of victim blaming that communicates to victims of revenge porn that they shouldn't have sent naked pictures, or the victims of identity theft that they should have more sophisticated passwords. Captain Hindsight seems to have a lot to say, but not all scholars are fan of CyberRat. In 2016, Eric Lukefeld and Majid Yar reviewed the literature of the applicability of RAT to cybercrime. Across different studies, they found different results. Analysis shows some RAT elements are more applicable than others, but there is one thing that did seem to have a large effect across studies. Visibility clearly plays a role within cybercrime victimization. Visibility includes posting tweets, sending messages, having a blog. The more places we go online, the higher the chance that at some point we stumble across someone who wants to do us harm. But there is another type of visibility that we know matters online: the visibility of the offender. Troll trace. Perceived anonymity has been found to be a key predictor of many inappropriate behaviors online, including cyberbullying. Although research has found that many of us don't need anonymity to engage in trolling or venting online, anonymity makes it far more likely that we will conform to online group behavior and norms. So, if other people are being assholes online, which is always, having anonymity makes it more likely that we too will be assholes. According to a meta-analysis of online anonymity studies, this is particularly true for visual anonymity. When we know others cannot see a picture or video feed of us, some have proposed that this is because this type of anonymity de-individuates us. It makes us seem less like individuals, with faces and names and more part of an amorphous blob of online contributors, and online blobs can be pretty mean. Is cyberbullying evil? Online bullying is often seen as worse than bullying in real life, less likely to involve physical violence, partially because it can be more public and the perpetrator is unknown. Another problem is that, unlike physical bullies, cyberbullies can easily follow us everywhere online. It makes it difficult, even impossible, to get away from them. Cyberbullying can be a major factor in suicide, mental health problems, and major lifestyle changes such as leaving a school or a job. This begs the question: who does this? It's tempting to divide the online world into trolls and not trolls. Us, the decent people; them, the online riffraff. But you have probably intentionally posted something online to attack or hurt someone. Me too. I try to keep it civil, but I'm just not someone who easily retreats from a Twitter fight. Things escalate quickly online, and we say things that would never be able to say it to the person's face. Justin Cheng and colleagues set out to investigate this. In 2017, they published a paper where they asked, is trolling caused by particularly antisocial individuals or by ordinary people? Ordinary people like you and me, the good residents of the internet. They had 667 people complete a 5-minute quiz online that included logic, math, and a word problem. Without realizing it, half of the participants has been assigned an easy quiz and half a hard one. Those in the easy group had to descramble anagrams like Paffy, happy, while those in the hard group had something like Dinion, annoyed. Additionally, at the end of the quiz, those in the easy group received feedback that they had done well and better than average, while those in the hard group were told they did poorly, below average. People generally hate to perform below average, so this was done to put people into a good or bad mood. The researchers wanted our happy and grumpy participants to take this emotion into the next phase of the experiment. In this next stage, participants were asked to anonymously take part in an online discussion. The study happened in the lead up to the 2016 US presidential election, and they showed participants an article explaining why women should vote for Hillary Clinton. Below the article, the first 3 comments were either neutral or negative. Both the article and the comments were taken from a real online discussion. An example of a negative troll post was, "Oh yes, by all means, vote for a Wall Street sellout, a lying, abuse-enabling, soon-to-be felon as our next president. And do it for your daughter. You are quite the role model." Neutral positive posts, on the other hand, included, "I'm a woman, and I don't think you should vote for a woman just because she's a woman. Vote for her because you believe she deserves it." The researchers found that participants who were in a negative mood posted more trolling comments than participants who were in a positive mood, particularly when they were exposed to the trolling posts of others. Of posts from the negative mood, negative context participants, 68% were troll posts, almost twice as many as from the positive mood, positive context participant, 35%. It seemed that much as in real life, we are far more likely to be assholes online when we are grumpy and when others are being assholes. The authors explain this as being the result of 2 processes. The first is social contagion, which refers to the decades worth of research, which showed that humans often act the way those around them act, with emotions, behavior, and attitudes being passed from one person to the other. Linked with this is the idea of normalization. When many of us are doing something, we feel as though this is a normal, perhaps even appropriate, thing to do or right. Normalization also means that we feel as though there will be no negative consequences to following along with that what other people do. We also often fear acting against the norm, as we don't want to become targets of harassments ourselves. As the author state, drawing on prior research explaining the mechanism of contagion, participants may have an initial negative reaction to reading the article, but are unlikely to bluntly externalize them because of self-control or environmental cues. Negative context provides evidence that others have similar reactions, making it more acceptable to also express them. In addition to this, negative mood further accentuates any perceived negativity from reading the article and reduces self-inhibition, making participants more likely to act out. According to the authors, this work, combined with a large-scale analysis they did on internet comments, suggested that mood and discussion context together can explain trolling behavior better than an individual's history of trolling. In other words, context might matter more than stable characteristics. Anyone can become an annoying internet troll, even you. Technology is presenting new ways to empower and exploit, humanize and humiliate. But just because we can all become awful people online doesn't mean that we are justified in doing so. If you aren't an asshole offline, don't be one online. To help you with this, there are 2 things you can do. Number 1, rehumanize your online experience. Picture the real or imagined face of the person you are dealing with online. Picture their emotional reactions, the human consequences of your digital life. Be kind out there. Number 2, post online as if it were one day going out to read aloud in a deposition. Pretty much everything you say or do online can be used against you in a court of law. When I work as an expert witness, I often see tweets, Facebook messages, and emails submitted as evidence in court. Unbridled posting online might result in a history that doesn't do you any favors. The internet never forgets. We are all citizens of this shiny new cyber world. Only we can make this new world one that we want to live in, and there is hope. In the realm of the World Wild West, there are many ways in which online evil has been successfully thwarted. Online marketplaces have taken a stance on what can be sold on their sites. There are international efforts to find the distribution of child pornography online. The dark web is getting lighter as police infiltrate and identify individuals who do illegal things. AI ethics boards are emerging in companies. It's a start. However, fighting hackers or trolls or bots one at a time won't work. For this challenge, traditional criminology and policing aren't enough. We must bring in the nerds. Fight fire with fire, machines with machines, hackers with hackers, AI with AI. Most importantly, we must become more conscientious consumers and creators of technology. In the next chapter, we turn to a human tendency that also manifests in different ways online than it does in real life. We are known to engage with sex differently and perhaps more openly when we are online. Is this openness a good thing? At what point do we move from watching really inappropriate porn online to acting it out? We will now explore your kinky side and explore the darkest aspects of your online and offline love life. And this concludes part 4.